Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Ilui Nishmas Rosner Rabbi Stefansky. Since we are raising money for more Gemaras from Masechtas Kiddushin, I thought I would share this nice story with you. Derech Agav, yesterday at the wedding, two people, I'll mention their names, I guess, in the coming days, but two people at the wedding gave me $10,000 for Gemaras, so it's very nice. And a few other people told me that they want to give nicely, so we'll see what happens. We still need to raise like $100,000 for Kiddushin. Kiddushin is going to be huge. I thought I would share this nice story with you. I started learning with Yeshir halfway through Masechtas Saita. I loved it and wanted to contribute, so I donated a few Gemaras from Masechtas Gittin. Fast forward a few weeks, I was looking for a new chavrusa and reached out to my friend who told me I had just started doing the daf with Yeshir. He told me he wasn't sure if he started for the free Gemara or because he's heard it's such great things. But either way, he loved Yeshir and was interested in having a chavrusa to do the chazor on the daf. I thought it was so powerful that when I decided to donate a few Gemaras, my future chavrusa was simultaneously joining the shir for a free Gemara. Okay, he decided that the Gemara that he donated went to his chavrusa. Every dollar, every mitzvah has direct impact on our lives. Sometimes we see the impact. Here's this screenshot he sent me. I don't know, could you see it? Yeah. On the bottom over there. Sometimes you see them right away, and sometimes we don't see them at all. But there will always be an impact. I hope the story inspires other people to contribute to themselves. Kiddushin. Thank you for everything you do. Best Igal El Mala. It says over here, looking forward to Achi. How are you learning the daf now? You started with Rabbi Stefansky. It's really going great. Yeah, same. Not sure if I did it for the free Gemara or because I've heard he's awesome. But also going great for me. Shkoyach. Now here we have a picture below of someone learning the daf. I'm going to show you that picture. Blow it up because it's very chashuv. I was at a wedding yesterday. It was very hard to learn. But here's somebody that took some time out as he's eating soup. I'll show you the picture real quickly. Completely engrossed in his learning, barely having time to eat his soup. So it says like this. Picture below of someone learning the daf with Rebelli, with Eli and Avromi Blavis's Eli's Chavrus and Chaim Berlin. I don't remember him. I remember the name. I don't know. It looks a little different then. Son's wedding Pesach tonight. Also picture Naftali Mazel Tov, Naftali Wallfish, who sent in this picture with Avromi Blavis, father of the Chassan, regards to Eli. Here he is one more time. And we're going to jump right in. The Koilo. Sponsored, L'Refuas, my mother-in-law, Shlomo Esther Basbelo, by Anonymous from Lakewood. The Koilo, sponsored Nishmas Chaya by Moshe, Nishmas Betzal by Moshe. The Koilo, Paras Hayoim, sponsored anonymously for Zchus, to buy our house this year in Eretz Yisrael. The Masechta, sponsored by Moshe Banda, to thank Hashem that I'm able to thank Him for everything that I have. I also want to thank, real quickly, I want to thank Avremi Cohen for getting up at 4:20 in the morning in Eretz Yisrael to get this Zoom YouTube thing going here in Chicago. I know, and I apologize to everybody else. Chill out, everybody chill out. Relax. I know they're waiting here for 35 minutes for the shir to start. Shkoyach Mark Ashkenazi came off the plane from Phoenix on his way back home, also trying to help us out here and helping me manage the screens now. Shkoyach. Parshas Chodesh, Nishmas Chaybas Yosef Parshas Chodesh, Hashem should open up all the tzinorot bracha for Baruch Tzvi Nissim ben Shoshana Lea. Parshas Chodesh, Rosner, Maaser, remainder Eli Nishmas, Yosef Simcha Chaim ben Shlomo Yehuda, Parshas Chodesh, Lakewood and Lebovic families, Lakewood New Jersey, because Torah and achdus are the best segula. Parshas Hashavua, Tzvi Corlin, in memory of Faiga Chaya, Bas, Yacov Chaim who passed away, Shabbos Parshas Korach, and gotta get this closer. David Baddiel, leading Nishmas Zayda, Yitzchok ben Reb David Shoshana Lea on his 27th yard side, and I can't read this. Let me see if I can get it over here. Hold on a second. Oh, let me see if I can do this. No, can't read it. Oh, by Lord and Sarah Ditza Spiegelman in honor of the bar mitzvah of their son Avi, we continue to grow in Torah mitzvahs and Yerushalayim. Lichas. The MDY family is invited for dessert and dancing on Tuesday night, 7:30 at Havat Zion Hall. Please see the local chats for details. By Tzvi Corlin, in memory of Faiga Chaya Bas, Yacov Chaim who passed away Shabbos Parshas Korach. Didn't we say that before?
Yeah. You skipped one.
Tzvi Statfeld.
Who? Oh, Tzvi Statfeld, Shkoyach, Chanan Aschendorf and Yosef Kaplowitz, a memory of our Cleveland Zeidy on his yard side. Yitzchok ben Menachem Mendel Alevi. Shoshana should have an aliyah, and for some reason this guy got in twice. And the art of the month for complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Lea. All right, Rabbi Sai, shkoyach for having me again. Shkoyach to the shul in Rabbi Eichenstein. We're holding by Rav Onan, 6 lines from the bottom. Omar Rav Onan, Shamis Minod Demar Shmuel Karti. So 2 very, very similar halachas. Daf Mem Daled Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. 2 very similar halachas. Chada Hach. The first one is the halacha that we were discussing until now, that if somebody sells his eved, his slave, from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, he has to release him. Now, who loses money? Do you lose money? You sold the slave. Is there a monetary loss here? You have to release him. Do you get your money back? Do you not get your money back? V'edoch de itmar. And another similar halacha. Every 7 years is Shemitah. Every 7 Shemitah cycles, every 49 years, on the 50th year is Yovel. So it says in the pasuk, "B'kidashtem ishnas hamachamishim shana ukrosim dora baris l'chol yishvel Yovel hi tiyeh lochem." And it says, "V'shaftem ish lachuzasoi v'ishal mishpachti tashuv." Land that you sell during those 50 years goes back to you on year 50. Now, what happens if somebody sells property on the Yovel? So automatically, it's going to go back to you on the spot. The question is, did it grab for a millisecond and then went back to you? Or since it's in a constant going back to you, then you never even had a chance to sell it even for a millisecond. You hear that's a machlokes here. Did you sell it for a millisecond and then it went right back to you? Or it didn't even sell? The nafkamina would be, who gets the money? So I sell you a field on Yovel, on year 50, I sell you my field, you give me $1,000. And then it comes right back to me. So who gets $1,000? Well, if it was sold for a millisecond, then it came back to me, I get to keep the $1,000. But if you hold it never even sold, because it can't sell, because it's Yovel, it's not possible to sell, then the $1,000 never transferred. We just started, Steve. We just started, believe it or not. We were waiting for you, and we were waiting, and the oil said, we can't wait 40 minutes, so we started. Rav says it's a sale, but it goes right back to the seller, and the seller gets to keep all the money. It never sold at all, and therefore you don't get to keep any money because no money got exchanged. Now he says, Rav Onan says, in one case, we learned from Shmuel that you have to return the money. I don't know if it's Yovel, I don't know if it's the slave. In one of them, you sell the slave to Chutz La'aretz, you made a profit. You have to return the money, or you don't have to return the money. In Yovel, you sold your field and it went right back to you after a millisecond. You return the money, or you don't return the money. I don't remember which one he said you have to return the money. And I don't know which one it is. Yeah, what are you saying?
When do we blow the shofar? Is that Yom Kippur at the end of the Yovel or the beginning?
I don't know. What does that have to do?
Because the whole point is when you blow the shofar, I thought that's when everything happens at that point.
No.
Returns.
The whole year it's returned. The whole year.
What's the purpose of the shofar?
Good kasha. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Yosef, Nechziana. We can figure it out ourselves. We actually just had a few daf ago. Rav Yosef also said, Nechziana. It says in the Brayso, if somebody sells a slave to Chutz La'aretz, Yotzel Lecherus, the slave goes out free. V'tzarich get shichru meraboy sheni. The second person, the purchaser, the guy that bought the slave, he must release the slave. So what does this tell us? That the second guy acquired the slave, and therefore he lost his money in the process, and he has to release it. If the second guy didn't have to release, so it never happened. But since there was a mechira, so he gets his money, he paid for it. The seller gets his money, gets to keep his money. So I know at least one of the two cases. Now, once I know one, process of elimination, then I know the other. In the case of Yovel, you don't get to keep the money. So if that's the case, in the case of Yovel, you don't get to keep the money. So then what's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? Slow, nothing complicated. Rav says there's no mechir. Mechura v'yotza. Sorry, mechura v'yotza. There's a mechira, comes right back. Shmuel says ain't a mechura kol ikra. Nothing. But we're saying that according to Shmuel, when it comes to selling a slave, the guy, he loses his money. The other guy doesn't lose his money. Rashi explains here that there would be a nafkemina in kinyan agav. So kinyan agav is the idea that if you put property, movable property on a piece of real estate and you purchase the real estate, you get to keep all the movable objects. Now, so the nafkamina would be between Rav and Shmuel. If there was a mechira for a millisecond, then you get to keep all the metalpul. If there's no mechira at all, you don't get to keep the metalpul. Stop. Azaytika nafkamina, says Rashi, in the havamina. Says the Gemara, Shmavino, Kanya Rabbi Sheni, Vilahad Rizvini. Bichi Omer Shmuel Hassam, Ein Mechura, by Yovel, Umoyis Chayzrim. So we'd say that by Yovel, the money goes back. But in the Havamina, where it doesn't, let's say in Yovel, it doesn't go back, then what would be the nafka community in Rav and Shmuel? See, that's what Rashi comes to explain. If you hold that Rav says you have to, there's a kinyan, and it goes right back. And Shmuel would say the same thing. So then what's the nafkamina? That Rashi comes to explain. Okay. Top of Memhei Omedal. So you have to say that Ravona never heard this brayza because it says almost mefurish that when it comes to a slave, the purchaser, he owns the slave for a little bit. And if he owns the slave for a little bit, then he loses his money. Because there's a real purchase, he bought it, the money goes to the seller gets to keep his money. So how come Ravana didn't know this, bring a ride from this price? He didn't know the price. V midishmol. I can't read my own handwriting. Unbelievable. Okay. Now, from the fact that Shmuel says that there's no mechira in Yovel, not a right. Just because there's no mechira, how do you know? Maybe it doesn't mean that you get the money back. There is a concept in Shas, as the Gemara is going to say. Sometimes you're not doing anything, but you give money and the other guy gets to keep the money. Why? Imagine a guy goes and tries to get engaged to his own sister. Everybody knows you can't get engaged to your sister. So what was he doing? All he was doing is he was giving her a gift. He knew that she's not going to accept the gift from him. So he made a trick. He said, okay, let's pretend that we're getting married. And like that, she took a ring from him or something. And then she stayed with the gift. Okay. So the Gemara, Yosef, my chaz is the kanzina. So in the case of a slave, what happened? You shouldn't have sold your slave to Chutz La'aretz. The guy in Chutz La'aretz shouldn't have bought your slave. The guy in Chutz La'aretz bought the slave, he loses $100,000. What about the guy that sold the slave? Says the Gemara, no. How come the guy that's selling the slave, he shouldn't be selling, how come He doesn't get punished. There's a saying that we're on there. Okay. They're saying that the mouse is not the ganav, it's really the hole. Without the hole, how could the mouse steal? Now, I have to forget you that this picture, I told Yoshi, it looks like a AI generated picture. Slightly. That's because it's very detailed. So I want to show the Olam that this, it's not a complete raya, but this was drawn from A to Z, all the detail and everything, with the tzitzis, the tchelas here. Here's the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. The shading on the floor here, you can see, put the shading in there. Daf Yomi cheese, the whole thing. It's whatever. It's not an AI generated picture. It takes many hours to do one little picture like this that we show for 10 seconds. Anyway. So, Zok Gemara. Lav Achbar Ganav. Elochayr Ganav. It's a hard svara to understand. I mean, you have a Ganav. He steals something and he runs away in a car. Oh, he's not the Ganav. The car is the Ganav. It's hard to understand. Or Malay, Ilav Achbar Ochayr Menole. That's basically what we say. So what do you mean? If there's no mouse, then just a hole in the wall doesn't steal. Obviously, you need the mouse. The main culprit is the mouse, not the hole. So how come this guy doesn't get punished? He's the seller. Without the seller, you don't have anything. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. The pshat is that what's the problem? The problem is that we have a purchaser who lives in Chutz La'aretz and is going to create a problem with the slave. The slave is going to do averis. He's going to be in there in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, he's the main culprit, and therefore he has to get punished, not the seller. Says the Gemara, there's a slave who ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Ozam More Abasrei and his owner came to chase him. Also, Tamid the Rabbami, they came to Rabbami. I want you to release him. He's here in Eretz Yisrael. I don't want you to take him back to Chutz La'aretz, and we'll make sure that the slave pays for himself. And then you will give him a get shichur, release him. Ilui, if you don't, I have a trick that I could release him from you, and you won't get anything. So at least you want to make some money off this whole problem. Release him nicely, and we'll make sure you get some money. So now we're going to go through a little bit of a sugya, a few lines here, until we get to Rabbi Yoshia, to this halacha of Rabbi Yoshia. But it's very interesting. It says in the Torah that the 7 nations, the Shiva Umayis, cannot be in Eretz Yisrael. You have to wipe them out. Why? They'll create a problem in Eretz Yisrael to bring you to sin. So now we're going into some Hasidic Torah, sort of. It's like a nice little drush in the pasuk. It's not the typical pshat. It's not word for word. It's like this is where the Hasidim got it from. This idea of that you don't have to be exact in the words. It's like more of a drash. The what? Maybe the pasuk is coming to say that if a guy decides, I want to live in Eretz Yisrael and I'm not going to do any averis, I'm not going to worship Avodah Zarah, so maybe you should keep him. That's what the pasuk is trying to say. Eved over here is talking about a guy who's slave to Zietzar, like we used this mashal a little while ago. A guy that's a slave to Zietzar, he does Avodah Zarah. Don't chase him away. Tries to separate himself and come to you. Don't separate him and send him back to his master. And so what you do? He can continue living with you in Eretz Yisrael. So that's basically what the pasuk is trying to say. So let him stay in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yoshia, we're trying to get to the son of Rabbi Yoshia. So now we have the father. Rabbi Yosha says, Rabbi Yosha has a kasha, Haimim Adoinov. Who's his David Zara, the Getchke is his master? How do you call him a master? Mimaviv. Or there's a girsa here, Mimileikov. Certainly not his master. Maybe he's scared of his father. His father will beat him up for not worshiping David Zara. Elo Amar Rabbi Yosha, so Rabbi Yosha has a different Shabbat. We're not talking about a non-Jew who wants to stay away from Avodah Zarah so he can live in Eretz Yisrael. We're talking about a Jew, our sugya, a Jew who sells a slave from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. And then he comes. You shouldn't give him back to the master. So now the son, and this is what we're trying to get to. Here we are. Rabbi Yosha's son says, the wording is not so good. It shouldn't say Ilecha to you, he separated from you, not to you. According to you, he went from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. So he went from you, not to you. Oh, finally, here we are. This is our story in our sugya. We have a slave who decided, I want to make aliyah. I had enough of this Chutz La'aretz business. He's more choshev than his master. Oh, all this gashmias, all this stuff. I don't know what it is. Every time I come to Chicago, I gain 10 pounds the first day. Every additional day is like 5 pounds. It takes me like 3 months. It's crazy. The shallots and the Great Chicago and the this and the that and the chasanas, simchas, and then you have the night and then the day and then the Sheva brachas and the Toyamel. It's crazy. Okay, good stuff. So, the ice cream truck outside of the chasanas, as you leave, you get ice cream. After the 3 desserts, there's another they hit you at. That one more. I don't even know if that came to New York yet, that thing. Rita's ice cream truck outside of the Chassan Hall. Free ice cream for all.
First.
Huh?
It's a first.
It's not the first. I heard there's other Chassanos.
In Chicago.
In Chicago. Fine. So, that was his threat. Listen, if you don't accept my deal, your slave ran away. You came here to pick him up. I'm telling you right now, just release him. Because if you don't release him, here, Rabbi Yosha has a pasuk that tells me I shouldn't lisaskir eved al adonov. The pasuk says that if a slave runs away, don't give him back to the master. Now, obviously, the pasuk cannot mean literally if a slave runs away. So every day, the slave is going to go next door. Hey, and then the guy can't give him back. So obviously, that's not what the pasuk means. The pasuk means, according to Rabbi Yosha, he ran away for a good purpose. He ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Yisrael. He went through that whole trip. It wasn't an easy trip. I was thinking about it yesterday. Also, people came over and knew, how was your trip? I heard it was terrible. They canceled your flight. You lost your good seats, etc. They put me in the back over there, whatever. I was thinking to myself, I told people, I said, like just 40, 50 years ago, people used to go on a boat from Eretz Yisrael. It took 2 weeks. And the ocean is not a simple thing to be on. And you have big waves, smaller waves, and people steal and this. And it's a very big thing. Oh yeah, it took 10 hours. So new, as smooth as anything, not a single bump, And we sit and we complain. You hear this? A person purchases a slave on condition that he will release him. What is that called, Rabbi Isai? You buy something that doesn't exist. You purchase a slave that's not a slave. Very good. It's a davar shleiba la'olam. And this, says Rashi, is exactly, believe it or not, this right over here is the makar that Remeir holds, that Adam makne davar shleiba la'olam, that a person could create something that doesn't exist and sell it and release it.
Shall I?
What did you say?
No, I'm not trying to read that.
You're reading it out loud. Okay, thank you. Chicago's Adam Makna Dom Shlei Balay doesn't have any kudos. This is the Yisra right over here. Okay? Says the Gemara. Mishum the Mashmilu. Did I just skip? No. No, I'm way ahead. Okay. Because of Lehachi, how did it work? He wrote, when I purchase you, at the time I purchase you, you bought yourself. Rav Chizda Arakli Abdullah Bekusai. Rav Chizda's slave ran away to the house, to the place of the Kusim. We spoke so much about these Kusim. Machloikis of the Geri Arayis, Geri Emes. They're problematic people who don't really believe in Torah Shabbat Peh. They don't believe in Gemara. They believe only in the Torah Shabbat. Sholach Lahu Hadruna Ale. Give the slave back to me. Shochulei, the big Talmid Chachamim. They know the Psukim. What do you mean? It says in the Torah, we can't give it back. He ran away. It says in the pasuk you have to return everything, even a slave. But it says everything besides a slave. Can't do. It says in the pasuk I can't return a slave. Exactly, we just explained that a slave runs away. The pasuk is talking about a special case, not in my case. We're both in Chutz La'aretz. My slave ran from this place to this place. You have to return him. Why did he not say the pshat of Rebbe? That the Rebbe says he took a slave. We just saw this pasuk is coming to say if I purchase a slave on condition that I will release him, says the pasuk says the Gemara. I'll tell you why he didn't use that. Mishum de mashmelu kroy, because kusim they like direct pshatim in the pasuk. They don't like interesting pshatim. They don't believe in chachamim. They're mezalzel in chachamim. So he told them the pshat that most fits into the pasuk, which is Reb Achi Reb Yoshi. Says the Gemara, Abayos lechamoro bekusoi. Abayo's donkey ran away to the kusim. Shalach lu shadruli. Please return it. Shachulei shlach simona. Give us a simon. Shalach lu the chivra kreisei. His stomach is white. Shachulei ilav de nachmeniya. If your name is not Nachmeni, and we saw Abaya's name was Nachmeni, either his real name is Nachmeni. Abaya is just a Rosh Hashanah that Asher b'chol Yerucham Yasam or Av, but either Rabbi's father is Nachmeni, and since he lived by Rabbi, his stepfather, Rabbi didn't want his stepson to have the same name as his real father, because then he would be calling his stepson Nachmeni. It's not bakaved for his father, so he changed his name to Abaya. But anyway, Ilav de Nachmeni. If your name was Nachmeni, we would return. So for some reason, Yoshi did this. See, almost all donkeys have white stomachs, besides one. It's not every donkey has a white stomach. Okay, fine. Zok the Mishnah. Ein poidim es hashvuyim. Yeser kedei adamim. There's a halacha mipnei tikun ha'olam to save the world. You cannot overpay for. Oh, sponsor. I don't have it here. Yoeli Friedman's sponsoring somewhere. Okay, we don't have time now. Different time. Since we started late and everything, we'll skip that sponsorship. Yeah. I'll find another Mishnah I said and throw it in. We don't redeem captured civilians for more than they're worth. Whatever they're worth, like a slave or whatever. Now, unfortunately, in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Baddiel Yosef says, like when they capture an Israeli citizen or soldier, Rabbi Baddiel Yosef always said that you shouldn't give them more than one person, one for one. In fact, like 40 years ago, it was one for one. They came to a point that we start until Gilad Shalit was 1,000. There's a lot of tumult about it, and a lot of them were murderers. They went on to murder Jews afterwards. But the Mishnah says you cannot give the bad guys more than the value of the person. You have the option. You have you're there. You have a way to get somebody out of there. One person, you cannot get him out of there. Because what's going to happen is the Tanakhama says they'll start being more strict with the people left over. They will tie them down, put them in pits. Now you made it worse for everybody else. Yes, you saved this guy. What about yourself? With this svara, and in a second, let's just finish. Reb Shimon Gamliel says that they will take out their anger on the remaining captives. Now, the Gemara is going to explain the difference between the two. They're very similar, but there's a difference. How about yourself? Are you allowed to run away? You have an opportunity. The window's open. You want to run away. Now, you know if you run away, they're going to take it out on the other guys. Like by the Nazis in Machshov. You ran away, they killed somebody. Are you allowed to do that? Not allowed to do that. This is a very interesting Taisus here. We'll get to Taisus in a second. Let's see the Gemara. Ibaylu. Is the problem because people in the neighborhood cannot afford to pay these high ransoms? If the guy's worth $1,000, fine, we'll call it $1,000. But now they're saying $2 million. What are you going to do? Like in Mexico, I think they have crazy prices. And every day they're doing it over and over. Or the pshat is, because if you give them, you could afford it. The community is a wealthy community. They'll pay the $1 million, $2 million. But now they're going to do it again. So what do? Toshma, the Levi bar dargo parkula barte b'tleisa alfi didn't resolve. There's a person, Levi, who spent exorbitant amount of money to redeem his daughter. Yes, he did it, but who said that he went to ask a shayla? Maybe he ran, he negotiated with the bad guys, and he gave them a lot of money. So I think it's kedai to see Taisus inside. Taisus says two big yisodos here that are important. Says Taisus, what is that? Narrow nishbis v'hoyim avakshim. Is there less light here today than the other day? Just can't see so well today. At night, it's getting late. Parmisham poida says Taisus shani ishtoi davi kigufay. Says Taisus is very, very important that your wife is unlimited. To save your wife is different than saving your daughter. Says Taisus. You hear this? Your daughter is one thing. But your wife, unlimited amount of money to save her because she's like you. In other words, you yourself, you can do whatever you want to save yourself. That's the halacha. It doesn't matter what happens to the other people after you. You could save yourself. And save your what? Exactly. That's why you get mezainis. Because you're right, I forgot about that. The reason why you get mezainis is because the husband gets the wife's profits, whatever she makes, because he's responsible to redeem her from the capture, So then Taisus keeps on going. He says, Moyaisim says more than his own daughter. And on himself, you can give whatever you want. What about story of Yeshua? So Taisus says another yisod that in order to redeem a Talmud Chacham, you could spend a crazy amount of money. The Gemara is talking about is regular people, but a big goyin, you're allowed to spend a lot of money. Says the Gemara. When I have a chaleks in the Mishnah, what the reason is why you can't. How do you say it in English? Like save one. That's not the word I'm looking for. But what? No.
Prevent the escape. Want to
Help
help the escape.
the escape. Help an escape. Can't help an escape because the kodesh shvuyim or tikkun oil. My benai, what's the difference? Ikibenayu the lekel achat. So according to the Tanakama, there's a problem because in the future, we have to be concerned about the world. Tikkun ha'olam. So if you have this guy escape, so next time when they trap somebody, they capture somebody, they'll treat him much differently. They'll tie him down with whatever they can do. They'll put him in a place where it's impossible to escape because they learned their lesson. But if the problem is you're worried about the current captives, what if there aren't any current captives? We're concerned that they're going to take out their anger on a captive. Well, there's nobody else. He's the only one. So according to that, you would be able to help him escape. Now, I wanted to tell you a story. A Maaser Shaya, I think, look it up, that there was it could be it's a Maaser Shaya, but I remember seeing this once, that an Israeli soldier was looking to hitchhike, and a car stopped for him, and he went in, and it turned out there were a bunch of Arabs, and they kidnapped him, and they started interrogating him, and they wanted him to give up secrets that he knew, army secrets, and he wouldn't give it up. And it was like 2 days of just tremendous pressure and interrogations. And during one of the interrogations, he heard Hebrew coming from behind the wall, and he realized that the interrogators are Israelis. They're not Arabs. They were playing with him. They were messing. They wanted to see if this particular soldier, they were trying to do something. They decided to kidnap, pretend it was like a fake kidnapping, and see at what point does a soldier break and how much interrogation. And I think it's a Murdig and Musar Haskell, actually, because each one of us, we have a lot of tzaras in life. We all go through life with different tzaras, different this. If you realize that HaKadosh Baruch was behind the wall listening, he wants to see how you're going to act. He's interrogating you, he's pressuring you, but he's waiting he's listening. If you view it as, the enemy is here, the enemy is causing it, it's one. But if you realize it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a whole different reaction. So the Gemara, we see the Maid Benati the Rav Nachman, very geschmack in Maaser here. Well, the end of the story is not so geschmack, but there's a good Musar Haskell though. The daughters of Rav Nachman, they were able to stir a pot of, let's say, hot soup with their bare hands. Basically, tzaddikim, fire is not shoylen on a tzaddik. It seemed like they were big tzidkoniyos. Rav Ilui had a big shaila here. Shlomo Melech says, I never found a woman, I can't even find a man, 1 out of 1,000, but a woman, not even 1 out of 1,000, is shlemos to that degree that they could stir a pot with their bare hands. Says Gemara, Rav Nachman had a question. Now, it happens to be there's a medrash that says that Shlomo Melech, when he was thrown out by Ashmedai, he's coming back, and he stopped by a woman's house, he wanted some help. And she said, you're Shlomo Melech. You're the one that says, I'm not helping you. That's how you talk about women? How dare you? So he said, no. What I meant is, this is medrash. He said, I tried to say, I wanted men to know that they think that they're going to upgrade their wives, and they're going to divorce their wives to get a better wife. You should know that they're all the same. The same source you have with this one, you have with the next one. It's better the same. That's what he thinks. It's a medrash. Says the Gemara, Gormaluhu Milsa B'Shtabion. The Pshat here, listen to this. Gormaluhu Milsa. Because they stirred the pot like that, Rabbi Elish had this big shiloh, that caused them to be captured. Believe it or not, Rabbi Elish, who had this question on them, he happened to be captured together with them. There's a man over there, seems like he wasn't the greatest guy in the world, but he understood the language of birds. Also, comes a crow and starts screaming, my calmer. So Rabbi Elish asks this guy, you say you understand the birds. No, what is he saying? He said, Ilish brach. It's your opportunity to escape, run for your life. Omar urva shikrahu v'lo samrichna alei. You know, by Noach, the Marsha explains, Noach, you see the raven was a little bit of had a lying problem. He used to lie. I'm not going to rely on him. I'm going to risk my life. He says to run. I'm going to run. They're going to kill me. Then came a pigeon, started making crazy noises. Eli says to this guy, Mr. Bird Speaker, Mike Armo, what is the pigeon saying? Elish Barach, Elish Barach. Run for your life, run for your life. Now, it's amazing. I think it's a kiss from Hashem also that's in this week's parasha. There's a beautiful Reb Chaim Shmulevitz here. Has it ever happened? It doesn't happen to me because I have a very special wife. But I'm asking you, I heard that it happens to other people. Sometimes you say something to your spouse, to your wife, you say like a few words, and she hears something completely different. She's convinced that you said X, Y, Z. But you didn't even say any of those words, and you weren't even that keyboard. Ever happened to you? Dr. Dalbert, never to you.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. What's going on? What happened over there in that particular... What's going on is that she heard what she wanted to hear. You said this. She was expecting this, and she heard that. So, on this week's parasha, by Bilam, it says in the parasha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Bilam, don't go with them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is talking to Bilam. He heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell him, and what does he do? He goes with them. So Rashi says, because he translated it, Hashem said, don't go with them, go with better people than them, go more chashiv than them, go with bigger sorrow. What's pshat? Because the person wants to hear what he wants to hear. Hashem said this, and he heard that. Hashem said, don't go. It means don't go. Don't start saying pshatim in what Hashem meant and this and that. Hashem said, don't go. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz Mamish, this week's parasha from this Gemara. He says that Rabbi Elish also understood the language of birds. So if he understood the language of the birds, why did he ask this guy? He asked the guy. Why would he ask him? Because he was concerned that he wanted to hear, he heard what he wanted to hear. Maybe he wasn't hearing well. Halavai, the bird should be saying, Ilush brach, Ilush brach. Is there anybody else here that hears the same thing as me? So he goes and he asks the guy. No, the raven is a liar. Then when the pigeon said it and he heard it, and this guy corroborates it and he says, yes, that's exactly what the pigeon said, so then we can run away. Mardik, no? It's a big side. You hear what you want to hear. We do it all the time. Zog the Gemara.
You skipped.
Elish bro, I didn't skip. Omar. Knesset Yisrael, Kiyona Mesila. The Knesset Yisrael is a marshal to the pigeon. Shmaiman of Israel Nisa. Oh, it's a raya. I could run away. Omar Ezel. Let me see what's going on with these girls. If they're still faithful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'll help them escape. Omar, women, they speak with each other in the restroom. We once had a Gemara in Sanhedrin that says that women should speak in the restroom. It's that people don't come in. So they say their things there. So he goes to listen to what they're talking about. Shamino the Ka'amrin. He said, maybe from their shmooze, I'll be able to see whether or not they're roy for me to take them out. You heard them saying, Adi Guvern Ardoi Guvern. These capture guys, these bad guys are our husbands. You hear this? They're our husbands. And our real husbands in our doi are our husbands. Let's tell our captors to get us out of here. Let's move away from town. That people shouldn't go. We don't want our real husbands to come and redeem us. We love these guys. These goyim are gevaldik. Get us out of here. So what did he chap? That they're no good. These daughters of Rav Nachman, that he thought that they're stirring the pot with their bare hands or tzitkaniyos. Turns out they're not such tzitkaniyos after all. Chomarak, he left them behind and he ran away. Also, you about Gavra day, Niso. So the nest happened to Rebilish over Maboro. He got on a boat. He was able to cross over the river. And the other guy, I shouldn't have put tzitzis there. I used the old thing. The guy wasn't Jewish, I don't think. And he's screaming Elish Elish. So you got to take off his tzitzis. I did this myself. I used the other one, that Mabara. Fine, my bad. And they killed the bird whisperer. Now these girls were redeemed, unfortunately, against their will. They wanted to stay with the captors, but their husbands, the crazies, came and redeemed them. Omar, check this out. They were, in the beginning, they thought that they had a siddur. It turns out that the siddur is not a siddur. It's witch spells, and through kishuf, they were able to stir the pot. So first of all, a couple of things. Not every time you see a moifus from a makubal, from a rebbe, it doesn't matter who it is. Not every time we see a moifus doesn't mean the moifus came from kedusha. A lot of times, a person can see a moifus. It means nothing. It could be from the Sitra Achra. Here you have the daughters of Rav Nachman, doing moifsim, stirring with their bare hands, and it was a terrible thing. Another thing we see from here is, for those who suffer from kids that are off the derech, see Rav Nachman and Yalta. Who's Rav Nachman's wife? Yalta. They had children that were off the derech. Terrible people. They wanted to be mizana with the captors. They were doing kishuf and all that other stuff. But there's a Maaser with the Chassam Sofer. The same Maaser that we said a few days ago. A live chicken, fell into a pot of cholent. And the chicken died in the cholent. And the Chassam Sofer paskin that no one could eat the cholent, obviously. But not only that, a goy cannot eat from the cholent, because he said that there's a blia from Ever Menachai, from a live chicken. The chicken was still alive, and it gave flavor while it was alive into the cholent. And a goy, ben noyach, is mechuyev in Ever Menachai, so they can't eat it. So all the G'dai Ador came out against the Chassam Sofer on that psak. I don't know all. It seems like many. What? What's the raya? No?
As if you're stirring it with your hand.
Oh, very good. Tamid Chacham here in Chicago. They brought a raya from this Gemara that if these women were stirring it with their hands, isn't that a blia from Ever Menachai? Their hands went in. No, so what's a good teretz on that?
There's no Ever Menachai by humans.
Who said? You're allowed to eat. You're allowed to eat human. But there's also another.
But how did it get cooked?
Oh, very good. That's what I was thinking. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know. Maybe they talk about that. But Lemais, that was part of the kishuf that she didn't get burned. They didn't. It didn't. Nothing went into the pot.
No yatsuletis.
There's nothing. No yatsuletis. Exactly. Okay. Zok the Mishnah. Sponsored by Eli Freeman. Nishmas, his dear father, who has 4 names, and I don't remember them. You're not allowed to purchase a Sefer Torah, tefillin, and a mezuzah from a guy. Yoser al kedei mayim, more than they are worth. The famous Maaser, which really has to do with later on, but just in case I forget it, a Maaser Shaya. There was a guy, an Arab, came to peddle tefillin from Yid, and the guy thought very quickly on his feet. He said, let me see these tefillin. You put them on, you put it on. He says, how much do you want for it? He says, I want a 200 shekel. He says, no, and where's the other one for here? He's like, oh, it's missing. I can't pay you full price. We're missing. I'll give you 25 shekel for this, Okay. We're gonna have, he didn't come up with this trick. Abai came up with this trick. Mem, hey, Amud Beis, sponsored. Hey, let's just say the words. Save the world. Sponsored by Mordechai Sapaznik, in my honor, Yishkoyach, and by the MDY Tehillim group. Tehillim dot MDY dot what? Tehillim.8minutedaf.com. Do you ever go there? Okay, good, because I don't, so I'm sorry. Now Shlomo Rosner is gonna be a little upset. Had I gone there, I would have known it. Okay, I learned Torah instead. Omer Rav Baddiel or Rav Ashi. Some say that this name is not a real name. Talking about like the sort of Shas. There's a whole nidon if it even exists. It's for sure the only time in Shas, but some say that it's a mistake. Or Rav Ashi. Said to Rav Ashi. You're not allowed to overpay for stam. It seems like you could pay the actual value. Shmamino, what are you going to do with it? If you purchase a sefer from a guy, it seems like you're allowed to use it. Says the Gemara, who told you? Maybe you purchased it just to bury it. Says the Gemara, it's interesting. Over here, Rashi says min a little differently than usual. Usually, it's min means a guy that went off the derech or whatever. Over here, he says no, somebody that's really attached to Avodah Zarah. He's a big Avodah Zarah. So since he's such an Avodah Zarah guy, he's going to think while he's writing the Sefer Torah, he's going to think about Avodah Zarah. So if a min writes a Sefer Torah, you must burn it. And if a guy writes a Sefer Torah, you have to bury it. I once brought this Gemara, and the Achronim were talking about this Gemara, and it's interesting because it seems like it's a little different. When I brought the Gemara a few weeks ago, or maybe it was more, what about by achdus Sefer Torah? When people fill in the last letters, it says that if a Sefer Torah was written by a min, it has to be burned. So you have a guy there, as part of the family, and then you have somebody that's not affiliated, a shtickle min, comes and fills out ice. You'd have to burn the Sefer Torah. That's when we said in Maaser Shaya, I forgot who it was. One of the G'daylim was at a achdus Sefer Torah, and he looked around, he saw somebody, he says, you know what, we're not doing it. For whatever reason, only the Sefer can do it, and Shalom Yisrael. He was about to because he didn't want this guy to write a letter. Then we're talking about that if you put the outline of the letter, you just fill it in, it's not a problem so much. But over here it says min, I have to look into it. Over here, min is a Avodah Zarah guy, not some guy that's Michal Shabbos. Somebody who has thoughts about Avodah Zarah when he writes. Okay. Ayin Shom. So tomorrow, Nimtza B'yad min. If the min didn't write it, so you don't have to burn it, you have to bury it. We actually have a little bit of. So first of all, here's the guy that's writing Sefer Torah, and then just a little bit of a chart to make it more interesting. It goes like this: if a min wrote a Sefer Torah, Yisaref. If a guy writes a Sefer Torah, so we're going to have two sheets. We actually have a third sheet of you even allowed to use it in Shul, but the Gemara goes away from that sheet though. And then if you found the Sefer Torah, in other words, you don't know who wrote it, the min has it, so then you don't burn it, you just bury it. And if you find the Sefer Torah by a guy, we have two sheets, either you bury it or you can read from it. Zog the Gemara. We have a machlokes. So Rashi says over here that we have the concept called Sfek Sveika. Meaning, first of all, maybe a Jew wrote it. The guy stole it from the shul. Maybe a Jew wrote it. Yeah, they have many Sefer Torahs. They did crazy things with it. Second of all, even on the tzad that a guy wrote it, maybe he had kavanah l'shem shemayim. How do you add kavanah? At least maybe he didn't have kavanah for a getchka, for an idol. So it's a svek and memela, you're actually allowed to read from it. It's a double suffix. If a guy wrote it, then either you burn it or you bury it. The third, you can bring it to shul and read from it. Unbelievable. So you have a three-way contradiction. Is it Yigonez, Yisarif, or Kairin? Like Kashi, all this time Yisarif, Rebbe Lazar here, Rebbe Lazar says you have to burn it Dom Stam, Machshav Yisarif, the Chavim Lavid Zara, because most Goyim are going to think further, Getchken, therefore, you got to burn it. All this time Yigonez, and the one that's a little bit more lenient, you don't have to burn it. Imagine burning a Sefer Torah. All this time Yigonez, Haitanu, the Tani, Rav Amnuna, Berei the Rava, Meproshroinia, Sefer Torah Tefillah Mizushik Sovamin. Oh, no, that's not a good idea. Not a good idea because this is moving. Just leave it.
Okay.
It's fine. Shkoyach. Hold on. Let me just move that back. We're almost done. Amazing how everything's working out fine. So why do you bury it? You have a stam, that a min wrote it. Maaser, a guy that's a Maaser, he snitches on Jews, a guy that worships idols, ve'eved, and a slave, Isha, ve'katan, ve'kusi, ve'yisrael, mumar, and a guy that went off the door, psulim. Shenemar, ukshartem uksaftam. Guys, ukshartem uksaftam. Mi sheyeshna b'kshira, yeshna b'ksiva. That's an interesting thing, because a guy, a guy went off the door, he's in the parsha of, he should be wearing tefillin, but he doesn't want it. Okay, so even someone that does, he should, but he doesn't, he's not in the parsha. Some people that ask on Avram Avinu, he wasn't in the parsha of tefillin, so how did he wear tefillin? But he was in the parsha because HaKadosh Baruch Hu did promise him that because of the strength now, okay, it's a whole nidar. And if you're not in, if you're not supposed to put on tefillin, you're a woman or a guy who don't put on tefillin because it's mitzvah, they can't even write tefillin. What did that inquire by? And the third sheet that says you can even read a Sefer Torah like that, written by a guy in shul. You're allowed to buy a Sefer Torah from a guy anywhere as long as it's written lahalach. And this is a story by a guy. He mamish wrote Sefer Torah. Crazy. Where's that picture again? I like that picture. Oh, here. Oh, where is it? No, I went too far. Rabbi Gamliel said, yeah, you can buy from a guy. It's unbelievable. Fine. Zok the Gemara. Because Rabbi Gamliel holds, you don't need Lishma. You don't need Lishma, you can just write it. As a Gemara, Rabbi Gamliel, Ibud Lishma, and buy what? You have to process the tefillin Lishma, Baksi Lishma le'bay. But to write them, you don't need a Shema. If you covered your tefillin with gold, or he made the bottom out of a non-kosher animal. Here. Psulois, because the pasuk says, that Hashem's Torah should be in your mouth. So it has to be something that's edible. Recently, I just saw mamish the other day that they're selling in New York a hamburger for like $1,000, kosher hamburger, because it has gold. Here in Chalitz, they showed me bottles of wine back in the day, champagne, that has gold. You saw that stuff? Yeah. So it's a little bit edible, but not really. Okay. Or be'emetayra sheiros. Obviously, leave it in the Shema. So it says that if you make tefillin out of a kosher animal, then you don't have to have lishma. Not true. A kosher animal, you also need lishma. Says the Gemara. So how come by us we're saying that this guy could write a Sefer Torah? Where's his lishma? Says the Gemara. Talking about a ger. Who? Uh-oh. I don't like what happened. I saw it jumping.
The battery was low. That's what the
Battery's low, so they
On who?
on your laptop.
My laptop?
All good?
Okay, so we have to finish up here. Says Gemara. Oh, so he became Jewish, but he decided to be a guy. So from him, you're allowed to buy. Says Gemara, the story calls him to have a min. If he went back, so he's a min. How can you buy a Sefer Torah from him? Omer Ravashi, He's really Jewish. And he went back to be a guy because he was scared for his life. So I gotta tell you a real quick story, even though we don't have that much time. This is a medrash. There's a priest by the name of Abba Gulash. And he got sick and he prayed to his idol and he wasn't healed. Then he decided to down to Rebbeinu Shalom. Down to Rebbeinu Shalom and he was healed. So he decided to become a ger. And he ran to Tveria, he ran away, went to Tveria, and became a ger. And they said, oh, you're a great guy, you used to be a priest. They made him in charge of the tzedakah. And when he was in charge of tzedakah, he went back to his old ways and he started pocketing money. He pocketed money and he became blind in one eye. He continued to pocket money, became blind in the second eye. And then some of the goyim, his old friends, saw him and said, you see, you became Jewish, you became blind. You deserve it. That's what happens when you become a Jew. So he said, you know what? I want to do tshuva. I want to become a guy again. I just remember the Maaser because of this Gemara Chazal Surah. So he went back to his priesthood where he did this whole thing, and he said, "Everybody gather! I want to ask Mechila from the Getchke." So everybody, the whole city came. They wanted to see this. He got up there. There's a medrash. He got up there and he said, "You know, when I was a priest and I was stealing money from the priesthood, nothing happened to me. You know why nothing happened to me? Because Getchkes can't see and they don't know. As soon as I became Jewish and I started stealing from the pushka, then I got punished. You know why? Because Hashem sees everything. And he knew that I'm stealing from his pushka. So I'm asking Mechila from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and as soon as he said that, his eyesight came back. And it says in the Medrash, many of the people that saw that made a big kiddush Hashem, many of them became geared. Torah Rabbanan, let's just finish up to the Mishnah. Torah Rabbanan. You're allowed to pay just a tiny little bit more than the Sefer Torah is worth. Tarpik, my tarpik, or the tefillin, or Rav Sheshes Istra. Today it's like mamish, like 75 cents, maybe a few dollars. Very, very interesting. If you look at the Taisi Yishodam on the side, it's right here on the side. He says that what the Gemara means to say is that a sofer should never charge more than a few bupkis extra than his tefillin. Unlike today that they're charging $100-something thousand for Sefer Torah, a sofer should not charge more than a few, like an Istra, like basically $10 more. You make $10 profit in Shalom Yisrael. There was a woman who a guy came to Abaye with tefillin, and she said, buy them for me. Amar lo, you obviously reish betamri. Sell them to me for a few dates. In other words, he made fun of her like the guy did to the Arab. She became full of anger. She threw them into the river. Omar, so I said, I shouldn't have treated the tefillin in disrespect. And because I did so, I said they're only worth a few dates. She threw them into the river. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day.